Our devotional thought from the Old Testament today comes from our reading in Genesis chapter 12, beginning with verse 1. Sometime later, God tested Abraham's faith. "Abraham," God called. "Yes," he replied. "Here I am." Now that is enough of a sermon in itself to just stop there. A man that when God calls, he said, "Yes, God, here I am." But this is a story of how God tested a man's faith. I do not find in Scripture where God ever tests our faith with sickness and disease and poverty and failure and ruin. But I do find that God tests our faith with an act of obedience regarding something that is very precious to us. Now look at verse 2. "Take your son, your only son," yes, Isaac. He didn't ask for Ishmael. He asked for Isaac, the most precious thing in his life. He said, "Whom you love so much, and go to the land of Moriah. Go and sacrifice him as a burnt offering on one of the mountains where I will show you." So he said, I want you to give the most precious thing in your life to me. I'm not asking for Ishmael. I'm asking for Isaac. There are times that God asks us for the most precious things in our lives. And he asks us to do something with the most precious thing in our life. And there's a few things I want you to see here. First of all, I want you to see that the test of faith is not something that happens, boom, and then it's over. It takes a season of time to get over. Now with Abraham, it was a season of maybe 3, 4, maybe at the most 5 days. Because we see from Genesis chapter 22, verse 19, says, "Then they returned to their servants and traveled back to Beersheba, where Abraham continued to live." So they had traveled from Beersheba up the mountain to Jerusalem. Now that would be a difficult trek. It would be at least 3 to a maximum of maybe a 5-day trip. And with every step he took, it was a step of obedience. With every bit of effort that he exerted to get up that mountain, it was an act of obedience. With every step, he could have turned back, but he did not. This is why I want to emphasize, when God gives us a test, and he tests our obedience, touching the most precious thing in our life, it's not going to be something that's over in a day. It's not going to be a one-time decision. It's going to be something that you have to live and prove for a season. Now, how did he demonstrate this faith during this season of 3 to 5 days? First of all, he demonstrated it by immediate obedience. Verse 3. "The next morning, Abraham got up early, saddled his donkey, took 2 of his servants along with him, along with his son Isaac. Then he chopped wood for a fire for a burnt offering and set out for the place God had told him about." Immediate obedience. And maybe I can add to that immediate and continual obedience. He kept moving toward Mount Moriah. Secondly, he demonstrated his faith with words. He says in verse 5, "Stay here with the donkey," Abraham told the servants. "The boy and I will travel a little further. We will worship there, and then we will come back." Notice, we will worship there, and we will come back. That's faith. Because God told him that his descendants would be recognized through Isaac, that Isaac would be the child of promise, that Isaac would be the one that all the promises flowed to. So whatever God was going to do, he knew that Isaac was coming back with him. So he spoke words of faith. And in addition to that, he confessed his faith. Verse 8, "God will provide a sheep for the burnt offering, my son," Abraham answered, and they both walked on together. Abraham did not bring a plan B. You see, when God tests your faith, you don't bring a plan B. When God tests your faith, you bring your precious and you trust God to take care of everything else.